If what you're passionate about is what you want to go try, for all means, go try it. But recognize that no one else is going to be able to do what you do. No one's going to bring the same passion that you do. Don't let someone tell you that crocheting frogs is never going to make anything. It depends on whether someone picks you up on Instagram or you get, there's so many what if possibilities.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of the Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur and the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where we help startups and small businesses with patents and trademarks. Today on the Inventive Journey, we're going to hear another great journey from a great guest, Marsha. Marsha has been going for 6 years with her co-founder, husband, and partner in crime. Hopefully not real crime. But they have a fun cloud security expertise that we'll hear a little bit more about. And before that, they kind of came up with a company that they wanted to create because it wasn't already out there, and is since grown into quite the company and have some different employees and make it enjoyable and have a lot of fun along the way. So welcome to the podcast, Marsha.
It's great to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me.
So I gave an introduction, and I'm sure I slaughtered it, and I told it everything wrong. But as good as I could do with the introduction, I'm sure you'll do a much better job. So maybe go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the journey.
Sure. Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, let's see. I guess the journey really began around 11 years ago when, oh gosh, it's coming up on 12. That's crazy. When I met my now husband at an information security conference, and he and I had been doing information security since the cows came home. I mean, seriously, since I got out of the Army in 97, I'd been working in the military's version, information assurance, information defense, doing everything that you could possibly need with regard to security. And it just kind of honed itself directly into cloud security after I met Aaron. But we met about 11 years ago and got married, and people think it's crazy that we've both worked from home for our last 3 to 4 jobs and raised a family together. And
I wouldn't have put that as a crazy. I would have put the crazy part is that it was romantic to go to a data security conference, and that's how you guys fell in love. That would have been that's kind of like if 2 engineers falling in love or 2 attorneys that it's once in a blue moon. So
we have always said we both got into information security for all the hot folks that are there, man. That's where you go if you're trolling for hot folks, right there. So that's the story. I'm sticking to it.
We'll have to agree to disagree on that one. I come back with an engineering background, and my wife was a nurse, or she was, and now she's a stay-at-home mom. But I would have got to the nursing or the teaching program, or that's where I always trolled for the hot ones. And I wasn't wasn't the biggest ladies man, so I guess I was looking at the wrong places. But all right, anyway,
we had a good time, and of course we met in Vegas because every security conference ever is in Vegas. And so at the time I was working for a very large LSI in the DoD space. So I was working for a system integrator doing work for the Navy, and Aaron was working for SAIC and as a CTO there and working on commercial contracts for managed security services. And it just kind of went from there. He hopped to some other places. I hopped to some other places, but ostensibly the more we graduated into our roles, the more we recognized that the combination of technical approach that we both saw was necessary in order to complete a cloud journey, as well as the human side, the people and process side that is often poo-pooed when you are trying to solve the technical problems, wasn't being addressed. And so Aaron had been at AWS for a couple of years, and it had been a good run. He was very happy there. But
that was SAIC, is that what you said?
Yeah, SAIC.
This is a quick note, and I didn't mention it before. Sure. So that's where my father-in-law worked for quite some time.
Oh, no way.
He worked for SAIC on some of their, now I'll probably slaughter this one too. It was with their radar and with their sonar and with some of their detection, some of the devices there. So
yeah,
I at least have heard the name and have at least a little bit of a connection there.
Yeah, when I got out of the military, I was exiting Hawaii, and they basically said the two places that you could most likely use your skill set that you've honed in the military was McLean, Virginia, or San Diego. And I grew up in San Diego, so I said, let's see, nope, San Diego, yes, definitely San Diego. So been here the whole time, and that's where he was, also at the SAIC campus in San Diego. But there's also a big one in McLean, Virginia, as far as I know.
All
So.
right. So I didn't mean to hijack. Keep
No,
going
it's
on with your
okay.
journey.
It's all good. It's all good. So he left AWS, and I was still working at the time. I believe I was at, trying to guess. I think I was at IO Active. Maybe I was at No, I was at DualSpark. DualSpark is a small startup that was acquired by DataPipe and was started by two dudes that left Amazon and started their own company. And so I was inspired. It was a good company. There was only 15 folks, and it was really awesome because we were focused on doing DevOps, not in a lift and shift fashion, which is to basically take something from a data center and move it into the cloud, but to actually refactor, making sure that the way that you're developing your applications is appropriate for the best use of the services available to you in the cloud. And it was fun. We had a good time. And Aaron was friends with the CEO there. And so Aaron said, hey, would you be willing to, basically 1099 me out to cloud security specifically, because that was Aaron's background. And he said yes. And so under those auspices, we started ScaleSec. Originally, it was called Scalable Security, but so many people abbreviated it for us that we went and got the DBA like probably a year later and said, oh, fine, we're ScaleSec. That's good for me. I don't care. It's shorter anyway. Easier to put on the Twitter handle. So that worked out fine. I stayed on. I went up to, after it was purchased by DataPipe, I went up and worked for Chef Software, which is an infrastructure as code company helping you do a lot of your network management and in the cloud as well. And
I'll dive in just a little bit there. So
sure.
if I remember, I always tell everybody, correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm putting words in your mouth, feel free to correct them. But so your husband had jumped over to, I think, the startup you guys are at now, as you continue to work for, the different companies, as that got going. Is that right?
That is correct. That is correct. We were both on all the paperwork from the beginning, and it was our secret evil plan, rubbing our hands together, to finally get us both over there. But with 3 kids, 2 of the boys were in teenage years at the time. Our daughter was quite young, and 2 cats, a dog, a fish, a gecko for a period of time, bless his soul. Somebody had to make sure that the mortgage was getting paid. So I stayed on at Chef Software for an additional 2 years. And then I left at the end of December 17 and came over full-time since January of 18.
So before you jump to where you're at now, I'm going to dive back to that just a little bit. So how did you make that decision as far as, because first of all, kudos to you guys for both working together, having a startup, not killing each other or anything else, because I think that's an admirable thing. And sometimes it works out great, and you can be work together well, and you can separate business and home life and everything else, and other people just clash, and it's not a good experience. So first, kudos to you. But as you were saying, okay, and I'm putting again words in your mouth, but hey, we want to get a startup going. We have an idea. We'd like to get this going. But we also have responsibilities. We have a mortgage. We have kids. We got to take care of everything. How did you make the decision of, hey, who will make the jump first? Who will keep working? And how did follow on question to that? And I know it's a loaded question. How did you finally decide, okay, now we're both going to jump over and do this full time?
I don't want to make it seem too dramatic, but really, who was unhappier? And unhappy can be a definition of, this is not working for me anymore. I always tell people, I always wanted to be in a place where I could expand my wings. And I always felt like I was kind of like, I could flap like this, but there was no way I could really just move my wingspan all the way out. And I think that Aaron was in a situation after 2 years at 2.5 years, something like that, at AWS, where he said, I have to move so quickly. As a member of PSO there, helping people, there was such a deep need for help with the cloud security aspects that he only got to do say up to 80%, and then they had to figure out the rest on their own because he had to go someplace else. Now they may have gotten ultimately additional support, but Aaron himself couldn't actually stay because the work that he did was so vital to unlocking a lot of the problems that the CISO was staunchly against. And so he would go in there. Aaron would go in there and talk to these CISOs and make sure he or she had all their questions answered so that, the adoption could take place. And Aaron said, there's just bits that I want to stay. I want to continue to fix. I don't want to feel like I have to navigate off. And so I said, I'm cool where I am. So why don't you do this first? And I would like to say it was a grand calculated and it's gone, exactly like I planned. But dude, I think right now, if you're not planning. I plan 3 to 6 months in advance because look at 2020. So like literally you just kind of go, I've got a plan, but I'm prepared to pivot. I've got plan A, which is, hey, this would be optimal. But then you've also got plan B, C, and then all the way down to maybe double digits, because I think Excel goes up to AZZ or something like that. So I think it's important to have lots of plans, all of which are a function of how comfortable are you with ambiguity and chaos, because being a small business owner, you have to be ready for ambiguity and chaos.
So if I were to, now I'm going to encapsulate all of that to what's in it. It's basically whoever is the most unhappy, you got to go do the startup and chase the dream first. Person that was less unhappy had to wait it out until the company was well enough. So then how did you decide? So you did that. He starts out. And how long was it that he was doing the startup and getting the business going as you continued?
So I think his first 2 gigs were very long range FedRAMP implementations in the cloud. And so they were very long tail. And so he did 2 9 months back to back. And then when I was contemplating coming over, we were starting to recognize, just as any quote unquote Ponzi scheme of consulting is, you duplicate yourself and you resell yourself, and then you turn 2 to 4 to 8, et cetera. People were starting to see and hear Aaron's name and call him by name. And he's like, I don't want to tell people no, but by the same token, I can't keep saying yes because I can't literally do all of it, even though he's pretty good at multitasking that way. And so we were able to bring me on, and we had like 2 people that kind of stayed with us, and then a couple of 1099s. I think we stopped 1099ing in the middle of 2018. Other than that, we've had W-2 since then, all just straight employees. But up to that point, we had been kind of like, figuring out how do you manage the incoming of the requests for help with the incoming, the resource management versus the pipeline, 2 pipelines that you have to manage. We are very grateful and humbled and pleased that it turns out that what we were offering is in pretty much demand right now, which is kind of cool. So for the next,
that's a lot better than offering something that's not in demand.
Well, but people think I'm going to follow my heart. I'm going to follow my passion. I've always wanted to knit frogs. And so I'm going to put these knit frogs out on the internet, and they will bless me because somewhere somebody wants knit frogs and we will sell them. And the truth is I wanted to be the girl. At 5 years old, I was the lady on the back of the horsey going in circles at the circus. I go, that is the job I want. So no, I didn't ever dream of like cloud security type stuff.
But you didn't as a kid grow up say, when I grow up, I'm going to work in cloud security.
No, didn't. There was no outfit you could buy at Thrifties for that that had the plastic mask and the rubber backing and stuff. No, there wasn't that. I'm a cloud security dude.
So you make the jump, or you said, okay, we've got, and if I were to kind of say, going back to my question, lots of things we talk about. So was it kind of, it got to the point where, was it an income-based decision saying, hey, the company is making enough money that I can come over, or just by the fact, it sounded more like it was the fact that he doesn't have enough time and ability to do everything and needs somebody else that can help him run it?
That's the very positive spin to the answer I would love to give. But because I'm supposed to be candid with you, it will be because I finally got unhappy enough with where I was that I'm like, you know what? I don't I'm coming over there, scoot over, move that stuff off the seat of the boat.
Ready to come over.
The boat better be ready because I'm going to jump in.
Hey, well, that's an even more candid answer. So basically, both of you guys gauge if you got to almost your unhappiness level. When it reached a certain amount, then you're saying, okay, I'm coming on. So you make that switch. You finally both jump over. And I think one of the things we talked about is, so as you're doing it, you guys are a smaller company, obviously, versus a huge company. And
sure,
I like small businesses and that. But then you're saying, okay, we've got these big companies, and how are we going to compete, and how are we going to bring the best talent over and everything of that? And and you started to maybe trying to figure that out. So maybe talk a little bit about maybe the issue of competing with big companies for talent, and then how you overcame that.
Sure, thank you. I appreciate that that introduction there for that. We wanted a consultancy that was basically a lifestyle consultancy, and the lifestyle word kind of has some loaded terms, so I will define it as I do for you, which is to say the people that we're looking for that will be able to do what we need them to do, the magic unicorns that you feed special Lucky Charms every day in order to get them to poop cloud security amazingness. Those folks are generally in their getting married, having kids, have small kids kind of age stage. They're not going to be like, I can put them on the plane for 70 hours a week and they don't care if they have plants that die at home because they're just rolling in the Benjamins. And so I needed to find a way to get those folks to want to work for me. And so some of the differentiators that we have that allows us to compete and for lack of a better term, steal away folks from other places or entice them. That's a much better. Let's
enticing
just strike
is better.
that. Can you
Steal
go back and
always
just
has
strike
a
that?
bad connotation to it.
That's right. We're gonna entice them away. We offer 32-hour work weeks that are billable. The other 8 hours are for you to improve yourself. You should be working on blogs. You should be taking some of the certifications for AWS and GCP. You should be improving yourself in any way that you see, because by improving yourself, you're actually improving everyone levels up. Everybody just kind of brings that buoyancy of the water up higher and higher. And we end up in a situation where there's super fun camaraderie on our Slack channel that, hey, did you see this thing here? Did you see this note here? I saw this latest thing about this particular coding language here. We've got tons, but it's fun. People are constantly trying to one-up each other in a very positive, uplifting way. We offer reinforcements, money into your salary, not just a bonus, but a salary bump every time you pass a professional certification. We've been talking with one of our partner managers at one of the cloud companies, and he goes, well, how many of your folks? We have 18. He goes, how many certifications do you have? And I go, which kind? He goes, well, all of them. I said, okay, well, all of them, we have 99. He's like, what? And I go, I think you don't really care about these ones over here. So if you're talking associate level and professional level associations specific to your cloud, I think we were at 37. I said, but let me check at the end of the week. I think we have people taking tests this week. So, I mean, it's just, it's awesome. It's awesome.
I'm going to ask on that, because if I were on, and run into, and I talk with and work with different startups and done my own and everything else, the fear, I don't know if fear is quite the right word, but, hesitation of, one is to do the shorter hour work week, is that you're not the employees aren't going to produce enough to make them profitable, right? If I only have them work 32 hours or and I get the 8 hours of certification working on yourself, which I think is great, 32 hours of billable time, am I going to be able to make enough off of them to warrant having them on, right? And then the second thing is now you not only you compound the issue with 32-hour work weeks, and then you also pay them to get certifications with the worry that now they're going to go work for somebody else, or you're going to train them all, make them a valuable employee, and then they're going to leave you. So how do you find that balance, or figure out how to give them the lifestyle, let them work on themselves, incentivize them well, while not either worrying about or figuring out how to handle if they end up leaving?
I know we pay competitively. We cannot match. If it comes down to dollar for dollar, there's no way I have the poker face to go against any of the cloud providers. If they want someone and it's finances that they are differentiating by, they're going to win. There are too many people out there talking about the philosophy that our company has about people first, about take your PTO. We actually don't have unlimited PTO, and it's a calculated reason. I give you 4 weeks starting. I mean, you accrue at 4 weeks starting the day you start, because I want you to take PTO. And if it's unlimited PTO, then it's kind of no PTO. And I've seen a lot of people vacillate on that. And I'm like, no. And then I harass them. And the way that I am able to get folks to improve, and even if they leave, is by saying, I don't know how to say this right. I don't care if you leave. Like, I love you. I want you to be awesome. If being here makes you awesome and you are happy, then stay. It's almost like you've signed up. I don't know how to there's no comparison. That's why we've done this. It's almost like if you go to a college and you're there for 4 years, you're a freshman. So you come to my company, you're here for the first year, you learn the ropes. I teach you everything I possibly can. I uplift you. I improve in you. I pour good stuff into you. I feed you good snacks. You eat your vegetables. Everything's good. The second and third year, you are kicking it and we're all making money together. The third or fourth year, when you're just about to get a little bit jaded, to walk into the 35th client that I've sent you to and go, no, your problem's unique. Here's a hug. Let's fix it. You start to lose your ability to be genuine because you're just getting too tired of solving the exact same problem over and again because it's out there. Then I want to tell them, where do you want to go next? If you're not happy here because you've topped out, and you can tell if you're talking to people once a week like I do, you can tell when someone's starting to go, where do you want to go? I will write you a letter of recommendation. I will introduce you to the people that are there. I'd get no greater pleasure than thinking we've had a good run and I want you to go be amazing, because then you are my profit. You are the person, profit, not profit, right? Okay. You're the one that's going to go out and say, I had a fantastic run there and I'm going to send all of my friends here to work if they need a break, if it's a PTSD kind of thing, like I've gotten 60, 70-hour weeks, I've got tons of training. I don't know where to be healthy. This is where you go to recover, because you don't have to work insane hours. You do have to invest in yourself. I'm watching Slack, and if the little green dot is on Sunday mornings, you can bet I'm going to jump on and go, get off this computer.
Well, I give you kudos. I think that's a great way to set up a company. I was probably, I worked at, making the parallels. I worked at a big law firm, top 100 law firm, great experience. Don't have anything bad to say about them, with the exception of I got to the point, kind of the same thing of, I'm working, I was probably working 80, 90 work hour weeks, and I did that for a few years. And you almost get to the point of, hey, the money's nice and I'm getting paid well and the work's enjoyable, but I just can't do this forever. And then you do start to almost look for that lifestyle of, hey, I do want to see my kids, I do want to see my family, and hey, let's find something else. And so I think that's a great way to set it up, that one, if it's just completely paid or on pay, you can't always compete with the big companies. They can probably outspend you. But if you're looking for something that provides you with training and experience and lifestyle and actually enjoyable and everything else, and still good compensation, I think that's a much better place to position yourself. And I think it's something that a lot of startups and small businesses can learn from.
We do much better when somebody has already been through the ringer. I had one young man that I interviewed that was squared away. God, I really liked him, and he was in a very coveted area of the nation. I could use him a lot there. And he goes, well, I've got your offer, and I've got, an offer from one of the cloud companies, and I just can't make up my mind. And I go, then I'm going to help you. And it's not a dig. I'm rescinding my offer, because if you literally cannot tell the difference between my offer and their offer, you need to go there. You need to go there, and you need to make it happen, and you need to be happy, and you need to eat all their free food that they offer every single day on the buffet. And then when you recognize why we are here, that is when you come back and the door will be open for you. But you may not come here now because you don't know. And if you don't know, then you're not going to appreciate it. And if you don't appreciate it, then you're not going to really throw all in.
Did he ever come back? Just out of curiosity, did he ever come back?
We talk all the time on LinkedIn. Like, we comment on each other's stuff all the time. There's nothing but positivity. I'm so blessed and so lucky to be in this situation that literally if someone gave me their 2-week notice right now, I'd be like, oh, I'm sad. I will miss you. You're awesome. What can I help you with? Where can I sign to help you be more amazing? This is a job. It is not a jail, especially in this at will industry that we're in. There are many places I know these folks can go. I treat them fair. I don't think I overindulge any more than I overindulge my children. There's certainly guardrails and stuff, but basically I'm excited. I love to be around them, and I love to uplift them. And I don't think that a lot of managers and leaders think that way.
No, and I'm in complete agreement. So, and that's, it is, but, and it's for me, and it took, I think every company, depending on the industry, depending on how you want to incentivize, you're going to do it a little bit different. I always laughed at, there's engineers, sometimes the biggest thing that would entice them to come work somewhere was a perfect workstation. It had the dual screens mounted to the screen, and that's all. As long as you had the dual screens or the triple screens or whatever it is now, that was what they wanted, and that was the thing for a while. And I think that as things adjust, you need to look and say, what can we offer to differentiate ourselves to get the type of talent and the type of people, right? Because you can hire some of the best talent, but it may not fit your culture. It may not, and as almost as you mentioned, I rescind the offer because it doesn't fit what we're trying to do, and you're not going to be happy. And if you're not going to be happy with the culture we have, it's not a good place for you. So I think that's great hiring practices. So
absolutely true. Absolutely true.
So started it, going successful. We've talked a little bit before. You have, I think, a cool way that you treat your employees and everything else. Next 6 to 12 months, where do you guys head now?
We had our goal to meet 25 total people on the team. That would be 2 or 3 folks that are on indirect. I'm included in that list, but the majority of them are cloud security architects, engineers, application security guys and gals. We were on par to finish that Q2. I still think that that's possible to hit the last 5 hires by the end of this year, depending on how things go. So I'm keeping an eye out. I refuse to hire any more folks, even though there's kind of a demand, because I want to make sure that the people that I have good long leads. Right now, we're about 6 to 8 weeks out with regard to assigning folks to gigs that come in. But there's still a lot of chaff in the air. It's still kind of hard to tell what direction the world's going to go just yet. And so I'm going to hold steady probably till August or so, and then make a decision whether or not we hire another couple of folks. I have the luxury of knowing that we've always wanted the company to be around 25 folks. So it's not like I'm trying to make some sort of ludicrous number in order to be cool and be gobbled up. I just want to get to our number, and I want to kind of hold steady. So the only pipeline I'm managing is not resources and pipeline. It's just the work coming in. That would be my favorite, because then we can be very selective and be very prudent with our clients' money that are like, I just want you to do this for me. And I go, it's not a good use of your money. I'm not going to use my people to do that, because what you're doing is probably not the right thing even for yourself. So it gives you a little bit more latitude to be more bold about the types of work that you take. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, I think, and you may or may not, but I'll touch on it just because I think I think that there's sometimes you hire too quickly or you grow too quickly for what you want as a company, right? Meaning you may even be able to grow it to 100 people, and I'm just making up the numbers, but then it becomes a company that you don't enjoy working at anymore, right? So now you've got a whole bunch of people, you're managing them, and you don't even get to do the things that you want to do anymore, because now it's a big company. You have to worry about investments and in return on investments and everything else. And so I think there's certainly a strategy to growing it and running it the company the size you want, with the culture you want, the people you want, and that doesn't always mean
no investors. There's no investors. That's so cool.
No, and it gives you the freedom. So I think, but I think there's a lot to learn there. So
yeah.
Well, as always, I think I say it almost every time, but this one's no different. That I get to the end of the podcast, and there's about 20 more things I think would be fun to talk about that I never have enough time to. So I always say, and probably someday we'll have you back on. It'll be fun to talk a few more things. But as we reach the end of the podcast, I do have a couple questions I always ask at the end of the podcast. I'll ask them now. So the first question is what was the worst business decision you ever made?
Hiring is hard. And the things that I've had to learn, skinning my knees, hurting my elbows, making mistakes that I personally felt influenced it made for better hires the next time. But the number of times, and it wasn't a lot, it was probably 2 or 3 times where someone really wanted to work here and they just put their best foot forward, and they simply were not going to be able to reach the level that we needed them to in the time. But they thought they could, they wanted to, their heart was in it. But we had to agree it didn't work. And there is nothing, like, it makes me cry every time I have to find someone not capable of staying here. And it's always been capability. It's never been personality mismatch or egregious behavior or outlandish, none of that. And it breaks my heart, because I know how bad they want to be here. And every time I've had to let someone go, I've learned something from it, which allows me to make even better hires next time. So hiring.
Yeah, and I'm completely with you. One, and kind of a similar note, but in a different one that I learned is, I'm for better and for worse, and my wife will say it's for worse sometimes and for better. I have a personality, and some people ask me what my hobby is, and I usually say my hobby, I'll give a few things. I like to work on cars, and I like to, and I do coach my kids' flag football team. And I do some hobbies, but I usually say really my hobby is startups, right? So I like to do startups. I like to do small businesses. And so, but the problem is I always got and I had to learn with hiring kind of the same thing is I always got in, I'm like, everybody will work just as hard as I will. They'll all want to be the startup. They'll all want to build it. They'll all just, they'll all be excited that they're getting on it. And I quickly found that some people that are that way and they're absolutely great employees, and others just are there for a paycheck, and not in a bad way. They do a good job, but they're not there to build the company. They're not excited about a startup. They just want to get in, get their job. And for me, it was always, hey, I want people that want to do a startup, that want to be in a startup and like that type of an atmosphere. So I think that hiring is one that I think almost everybody has to go through and figure out, learn some of those hard lessons, because it's no matter how many books you read or shows you watch, you're not going to figure it out until you have to, one, hire people, and then even worse, 2, sit across and let somebody go.
Yeah, it's very difficult, very difficult.
So second question I always ask, so you get somebody that's either just started in a startup or wants to get started kind of in that phase of life, what would be the one piece of advice you'd give them?
It is definitely to recognize that whatever your heart is into, pursue it until you can't. We are doing something that happens to coalesce, I lost the word, to align with, thank you, to align with what we are also passionate about. If what you're passionate about is what you want to go try, for all means, go try it, but recognize that no one else is going to be able to do what you do. No one's going to bring the same passion that you do. Don't let someone tell you that crocheting frogs is never going to make anything. It depends on whether someone picks you up on Instagram or you get, there's so many what if possibilities. If you want to do something, go try it. And like Erin and I always said, if this doesn't work out, we'll just go, dissolve the company and go work for other places like we've always done. But it doesn't hurt to go try. And sometimes just going to try and learning that this isn't, let's try it again later. Let's go fall back, regroup. There is no shame in that, because every experience that you're having is learning and growing and moving forward and basing on empathy and getting it going. And so go ahead and try, and like, you don't lose any face. If it doesn't work out, it just means you've learned something and you're going to leverage that learning into the next thing that you do.
Yeah, and I agree. Although I do now I just want you to go and start to try a frog crocheting business just to see if it works. So, no, I think that's a good advice for people. I think that, if there's a balance, right? And I joke with crocheting frogs in the sense that maybe if you're really good at, you could do it, but you got to I think you find a balance between what you're good at and what you're passionate at and what the market wants. If you can find kind of those three things, then you're going to have the best recipe for success. And I also agree. I think you made one other comment that, a lot of times people are scared to do a startup, not even because they'll fail, but everybody will see them fail, right? So you do a startup, and then you tell all your friends, tell your neighbors, tell all your family, and then, a month later or a year later or whatever period of time, and they ask, oh, how's your start? Oh, it failed, and now I'm back being a whatever, or job. And you're worried that what they're going to think about you. And I don't think that should be a reason to hold you back.
There's also a euphemism. Oh, that's on the back burner right now because I had to go focus on X, Y, and Z. It'll come back again, or it won't. But you know what? Don't be afraid. If it just literally, you're just like, sometimes you're just like, that's just too much work. I am literally not as entrepreneurial as I thought. And I'm happier to spend the weekend with my kiddos doing some barbecuing. There is no shame there. There's too many weekends I work just to make sure things are going right. And it'd be fun to just kind of set it aside instead of being in charge. So there's pluses and minuses to everything you choose.
Yep. But then I always find that I always dream, oh, it'd be nice just to be able to go home and not think. And then I'm like, I'd probably be bored out of my mind after several weeks. So it would be a nice break, right. But it probably isn't going to be long-term for my personality.
I would agree.
So. Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. It's been fun to talk about your journey. It's been an interesting one, and I wish you all the best of luck with your journey. People want to reach out to you. They want to connect. They want to get hired by your awesome employment arrangement. They want to use your services or just want to connect. What's the best way to reach out to you?
Marsha@scalesec.com, and we are out there at scalesec.com. And I am a big proponent of mentorship. As long as you bring your ability to find your own bootstraps, I will help you. I will point to them. I love to mentor, love to do it. So even if it's just a curiosity going towards cloud security, I'll hear it and I will help you.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that offer, and I hope people take you up on it because it's always important to find mentors. So thank you again for coming on. For those of you that are wanting to be a guest on the Inventive Journey, feel free to go to inventivejourney.com and apply to be a guest on the podcast. For those of you that are listeners, make sure to subscribe to any of the channels we're on. And for those of you that may need help with patents and trademarks, feel free to reach out to us. We're always happy to help. Thank you again for coming on. It was fun to hear about your journey, and I wish you the best journey going forward.
I thank you. Have a good grade.
You too.